So back in 1984, this street was surprisingly unchanged much from the way it is now. To protect let's just say to protect those involved, names have been changed. Vince and I used to simply lurk around here, us being 17 and this was pre-internet. Back then I had a Yamaha 2-stroke GT175, a slightly hybrid trail bike, okay on the road. One day we watched from the then grassy unfenced plateau, rather than this now fenced basketball court, as our much older, well at least by a year or two, friend Ricky turned up on his newly acquired postie bike. He came up to us to where we were lurking, sharing the one remaining hard-earned Winfield we had pilfered. "Watch this," came the exuberant order as the badly hazed tinted visor quickly snapped up and down to let the words escape. He quickly went back down to the corner, performed a foot-down tight turn, and then, purely for theatrics, revved the bike 3 times and let loose the puppy of just enough. It was the postie bike, heading towards the grassy ramp. He somewhere between hurtled and ambled up the bank, at the last moment pulled hard on the handlebars and flew through the sky. From other previous unrelated experiments that required measuring, we knew that 2 steps equaled 1 metre. Ricky had flown 3 metres that day. Wow. Remember, 1984. People were still watching videos of skaters weaving between traffic cones in awe at this point. I mean, sure, there was Evel Knievel, but moving on. He repeated this performance around 5 times to finally gain the outlier of 5 metres. Then, like the open-mouthed ceramic clown's head at Lena Park, in unison their attention suddenly turned to me and my bike. After surprisingly minimal peer pressure, it became more a technical talk on how it was to be done rather than if it was to be done. "Just go to the end of the road. Get her up into second. Don't use all the juice. Leave that until the last metre to pull a mono so you'll be sure to land on your back wheel," the now expert Ricky explained. I dutifully obeyed, revving the bike 3 times for effect, dropping the clutch, getting some real speed fast, changing to second just before crossing the footpath, and hurtling up the bank, thankfully with the words, "Keep the juice for the mono," cycling in my head, and with the necessary lift of the front wheel, I was flying. Vince, now the adjudicator, measured out 15 paced metres as the mantra, "Holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck," cycled first mentally, then became verbal, then infected and spread to my 2 friends, till the 3 of us were chanting it in all volumes, various tones and length of pace. Immediately switched to the technical overview on how this performance could be improved. Go down the corner, rev its ring out before you hit second were the most agreed upon. So again, dutifully, further away, I did the prerequisite 3 theatrical revs and went. I had experience now, so things went harder, smoother and faster, with a perfect wheel lift at the end. This time I launched into the air higher than me, Vince would report, to a new 19-metre record. Again, the enthusiastical technical debrief and new suggested parameters. Go down around the corner, give it to her in first, hit second, give it to her, hit third and power onto mono just before you launch, said the now retired to experienced coach, Ricky. I obeyed, and giving the bike enough revs to be heard around the corner 3 times, I let loose the dogs of adequacy and headed for the launch. Revved out first into second, up the street, revved out second into third, across the curb, slowly reaching peak revs at speed with no oomph to raise the front wheel as I left the ground. There have been several moments in my life where the perception of time slowed due to the gravity of the situation, and the adrenaline coursing. It all began swimmingly as I flew higher and further through the air than before, until the handlebars started sinking below the artificial horizon, then the now lower visible horizon, and I uttered an "oh dear" in the same tone as you never want to hear your tattooist say. As the boat rotated from the 1 o'clock "it's great to land now" point to the 2, 3, 4, "now you're fucked" hours. With time now slow, I could calculate I was not going to enjoy the experience the bike was about to have with the ground, so I let go and purposely launched myself towards a hopefully much further away horizon, just before the top of the front wheel, now with bike rotated 90 degrees, hit the ground. This immediately pivoted the light, handlebars, seat, and finally rear light hard into the ground. In the meantime, I tumbled with all the grace I had in those pre-Aikido years, along the ground with periodical fearful glimpses of the cartwheeling bike keeping up with me. Thankfully, our paths diverged, and I eventually lay in helmet on my back as my 2 friends crept gingerly towards me, saying "Is he dead? I don't know," part out loud in whispered voices. They audibly gasped and took steps back when I took my turn of emulating the Luna Park clowns to look at them. An assessment was made. Importantly, 23 metres was the flight record. Right mirror destroyed and gone from handlebars. Left mirror bent with 2/3 shards still present. Headlight destroyed. Headlight mount dangling on wires. 2 front and left rear indicators smashed and dangling on wires. Globes of them remarkably working. Rear light, brake light smashed. But once the globes were found, they were working. Main handlebars bent 15 degrees on right hand side. 1/3 of front brake lever left. 1/2 of clutch lever left. Final 17-year-old 1984 assessment. Damaged but rideable. Using the same type of logic, I reasoned it was better to ride the 40 kilometres through the city and then down the windy country roads to limp down to my parents' house, rather than face the somewhat more astute eye of my brother, who happened to be a motorcycle instructor at the time and lived less than a kilometre away. Once the 3 of us had the story of how I had just misjudged a corner at speed and decided to hit the curb instead of running into a badly parked car. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry to anyone discovering this ruse by this way. But once we all got that story straight, I travelled south. There are 2 ways, no, in fact there are 3 ways to travel through the city. 2 of them avoided the then more modest police building, but for some reason, shock, habit, or plain stupidity, I chose the route that took me between the hospital and the headquarters, where there happened to be 2 car units pulled up, and the 4 of them stood next to their Kingswoods at the end of their shifts. All 4 officers went through the same body language almost simultaneously. First a heightened, "Ooh, look what we've got here then," as I limped the wreck with obvious dangled electrics and skewed handlebars past them, once again becoming the Luna Park clown, looking at them, looking at the road, looking at them as I creep past. They almost in unison shook their heads. Then the obvious leader looked at his watch, motioned to the others. They all turned around and walked towards the entrance. From there I limped home with bruised and battered body and more than dishevelled bike.